Now here we have something very beautiful. Look at it, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Fender Stratocaster, made in Corona, California. This is JT's go-to guitar, and I can see why, not only looking at it but actually feeling it. This has a very nice quality to it. So here we have it in Lake Placid blue. No, it's an American Elit series. This is what it is. It says on the back. Strange looking, small looking bridge block in the back, but we have the Fender noiseless pickups. We have a sensibly placed truss rod adjuster at the back. We have a lovely maple board. We have the Fender locking tuners. We have a roller string tree made in China, and we have a 4-point curvy cutaway back plate thing, neck plate, sorry, to give you a bit more easy access up to these frets here. And it actually does make a difference. Quite a thick profile neck. Yeah, quite a lot thicker than the Squire there. But this thing has a really nice tone to it. Now I've just changed the batteries in this amp because I think it's just getting a bit tired. Yeah, it is. It's gone quiet, relatively speaking. How weird compared to the one inside. Maybe it's just died. Definitely, everything's gone quiet on this amp. I think I need to take it apart and give it a shake or something. Why would it be so low output at the moment? Maybe it's full of dust or something, but... yeah, it's pretty sounding. Floating, so this isn't the best way to tune it. Well, so what is right or wrong with this thing? Well, all it's here for is just a little tweak on the action, because it is higher than it needeth be. Now I expect it's going to be adjusted with the microscopic American thing. Great, throw that on the floor as well. So it's got a bit of pinging in the nut which needs taken care of. It's a nice rounded bone nut and it's been lacquered over by the looks of it, or highly polished. And there's a bit of wear on the frets here, so it's been played a fair bit, or some bit of wear. I say wear, it's more the you get the striations from the wound strings. But it's a lovely looking thing. I think it's about £1,700 worth of Strat. But it has a nice heft to it, which is interesting because this doesn't. This is, you know, a light thing by comparison. You know, comes from a completely different sort of stock, i.e. ply. Anyway, so yeah, so the thing we're going to look at on this is just to take the action down a little bit, and if necessary reduce the first fret action a fraction, because it's looking a little bit higher than I would want it, and make sure these nut slots are cleaned out. But played it on the amp inside, or the little amp inside, which is only a small one as well, but playing that it was louder. God, it's so scary to do that. It was louder than the one out here, so I think this one's probably coming to the end of its life. It's had about 5 years out here. Maybe I should take it indoors and rip it apart and give it a good clean out. That's probably a good idea. Anyway, so the game with this one for JT is to worship at its altar, because it is a beautiful thing. There's a few bits of the old polythene still attached, which is quite hard to get off, and there's no pliers in the world that will help you get that last little bits off, or fingernails or anything. So you can end up just doing a little tiny surgical cut around the screw heads and whatnot, because otherwise it just looks ugly right here. I mean, you could take the whole thing apart, but you would be there for quite some time. Right, so let's just have a quick look and see what we've got in terms of neck relief, action, and first fret action. So neck relief wise, it's a fair amount. Let's see what it registers in at. I'm going to guess, now I'm going to do it in the millimetre department, but I'm going to guess that's, what do I think it is? 1, 2, 3, 4. I think it's, yeah, maybe. That's a little over 0.4, which is a fair amount, but so I mean we can make a minor adjustment to that. The action currently down at this end is looking like high. That is 2.5 nearly on the low, and 1 just over 1. So you know, that's a kind of, I expect that's a factory style setting. But let's take this down and see what happens, because I'm imagining we might get some rattle and hum pretty quickly. So we go down to, I mean that's that's over 1.5 still. So let's do it. Let's just do it. Let's put it down to a more suitable, or more. I mean, I'm under strict instruction from JT to make these the 1.5 standard. So anybody out there goes, no way, Eric Clapton would never have 1.5 on his guitar. That's true, maybe, but this is JT, not EC. So if JT says he wants the 1.5, that's what we're going to start out with. I need a head torch or something. Okay, just under, just a bit over, tiny tweaks on the American style hex key, and then we're down into the nice low correct areas over here, and down to 1 on the outside. Obviously we'd need to tune that with a a tuner or a reference guitar. Yeah, a little bit of buzz up the top end there. Okay, I'll leave that there for now because it's I'll just double check it. Got it at, I think that's 1.5. Yeah, 1.5. Okay, so that's that. Now let's just have a little wee look. Oh, I might as well write it down, but I need to clean this board. There's so much stuff on there. And I've got not a lot of time right now too, so I need to get. I'm going to clear a little patch with some goo. Right, let's just write down what I need to know. So we've got 1.5 down to the 1. We've got 0.4 relief currently, and we've got 0.5-ish maybe on the first fret. Okay, so there's a little bit of a gradient on here, and it's beautifully done. I mean, this has been very, very carefully done, you know, and it's to a factory spec. I may not. Let's have a look. 0.5. Just on the 0.5 mark, which is a fraction higher than I would go myself, but I'm not the Fender special shop like this is. I might be tempted to leave that for a minute. But what it does need a little some attention to these slots, because they are without a doubt making pingings, which is not ideal. So you do need to ensure that they run smooth. Quite difficult to do this first one. As I said on many a video, using a V file to notch it isn't actually that bad an idea. Oh, my arm's gone. Now, what I'm seeing here at the moment is that I don't think we have a full range of movement. No, we haven't. We got a limited range, so I'd probably set that differently. But let's do. No, it isn't coming out that way, is it? Let's do. Lord, that's a sort of scary thing to do. How weird. Pull this thing up like that. That's better. Let's do it from. Let's get it flattened down so it's hard-tailed to begin with, and then we'll go from there. Well, not hard-tailed exactly, but you know what I mean. These little pickguard screws are full of nice cleaning material, whatever that was, that went in there. So, right, I need to stop in a minute. I keep saying, gotta go and get me band rehearsing stuff ready. One of the things I noticed about this guitar when I strummed it hard the other day was that there's a lot of vibration in the springs, or sympathetic resonance. Wow, okay, well, it's a modern style. Yeah, these things don't half sing out. I'm just wondering if there's a way that we can damp this down, and I'm sure there's lots of favourite techniques. I mean, the springs have got to move a little bit, but they also don't want to make all that rattling. And I know that some people have used special kind of sheaths that fit over them. I'm sure you can buy those as a product, which might be a fun thing to do. But so what I want to do is I'm going to do these up. Let's see, this touches down in a minute. Actually quite loose anyway, so I can go a bit further. I'm thinking of what's a simpler way of shutting down this vibration. I'm wondering if putting some foam block between these springs might not help. Okay, so we're pretty much down at the moment. So what I would do in a typical approach would be to, we know what the action was. I'll just double check it now because the thing's flat, so we've got a different action going on. Doesn't matter whether you do your fret work, if you're going to do it with the thing. Oh, what's that? It doesn't matter if you do it with the tremolo active or the tremolo disabled, as long as it's one way or the other. So all it means is if I do flatten it out like this to begin with, I've got to reset the playing action on these, because previously they were up, actually tilted forward, I should say, is probably more accurate. So 1.5, tiny bit under. So let's go 1.5, 1.5, tiny bit too much. And now going the opposite way. It's so simple when you do it. Your brain does the opposite. Okay, 1.2ish, 1.1ish, 1.1ish, 1.1. So these are practically flat from there on. Well, it doesn't look it. It's bizarre, really. That one, according to this, should be on the floor, but it's still one. And that's 1 and a bit, that's 1 and a bit, that's about 1. So let's go up that one a tiny bit. Up with this one a tiny bit. And then it's a fraction low now. Little ping at the other end there. Okay, so we need a tuner here. Yeah, a little bit. You can see why the action was a little bit up on these bass strings, because that's just a little bit choked out down there. What have we got on here? I didn't check the gauge of these strings, but let's see what it says they are. 41s according to that, so 42, so that's 9 to 42s, I guess, given a little inaccuracy of the here. So that's 9s. Just have a look in here. Blimey. I wish I had a, do I have a zoomification thing? Somewhere I had a, in the good old days I had a, oh it's behind here somewhere, a magnifying glass, which was pretty cool for looking up close. That's nicely cut, but it's got a little bit of, you can see it's had some graphite chucked in there to help things along. Okay. Okay, so with everything flat, we have about 0.4 of relief. That could be a tiny bit smaller. And with that in mind, we could make a small adjustment. And we're going to flatten it out a little bit, but let's get a better fitting one. Tiny, small adjustment. We'll let it. Be interesting to know whether this sort of foam stuff would stop this. We'll get things to stay in there. I suppose we could. It would still work, but it would just take the edge. I've got tons of this, so I might just off camera cut some little pieces to kind of fit both under here. You know, so we have a little support pad just to kind of deaden that down a little bit, really, because we don't want it. Okay. Just looking at something there. So what's interesting how different the stagger is on these saddles. Okay, I'm going to stop this now because it's boring anyway. I'm going to put this away, going to come back, put the little bits in the relevant department, and then we'll come back and carry on. So that, these, this, sit there, over there, that belongs to something else, that out of the way. So yeah, we'll come back to this, let the neck settle, take it in, put it in its box, but we'll see where it gets to, and then we'll look at maybe a tiny reduction in these bass strings here, because they are quite high. I know they've been set at a gradient from, it looks like about 0.6, 0.7 down to about point. Let me just check this. Is it about 0.3 at the opposite end? Because that would be interesting. No, about 0.4, I guess. Bit more, 0.5. So I think they've gone 7 down to 5. I'm going to just jot that down actually. 0.7 down to 0.5. on the first fret. So I think we've got a little bit of tweaking to do there that'd be cool. Anyway, I'm going to go and get ready for other things now, so I'll see you in a bit. Here we're running. It's time to make a few tweaks, very small tweaks. The first one I've done, and I'm not sure how this is going to work, but we'll see. So I put some foam blocks in here. They don't stop the springs operating, but they do quieten them down. So this no longer has the thing going on. Now what I want to do right now is I do want to, what did we say? We went from 7 to 5, and I'm going to go from 5 to 3. That's my plan, if that. In fact, I could keep it simple. Let's just go 4 all the way. Oh, just one thing I wanted to check. I did a tiny adjustment to the thing yesterday. I wanted to make sure that the relief in the neck was good. Yep, it's about 0.25 now instead of what was it, 0.4-ish. So I'm going to just slack off these. This is a very pretty nut. It's unlike many nuts I've seen. I'm going to take a picture of it. It's so pretty. This is what you get for your money. A bit over the top here, but you get a beautiful sort of, I don't know how you describe this really. It's like a little hedge. Nut hedge, bone hedge. No, it's anyway. The point is, let's have some bright lights. Hey, yeah, it's like, I don't know how to describe the shape of it. It's instead of having a slope, it's just stands up in the air. But it's interesting because I know that it'll be really well made and everything, but I don't really know what the shape of that is. So I'm going to do a sacrilegious thing on this, and I know I can do this because JT allows it. I'm going to make sure that these are 0.4. And I think, what did I say it went to? 7 to 5. A little bit less now. I've adjusted the relief, but I'm going to go just tweak it a little bit. Now what I'm going to do, since there was a little bit of pinging, I'm going to do the sacrilege thing. I'm going to just slightly widen this, because I can see that right now the slot goes down in a straight line, and it's going to be grabbing the string. And I'm just going to make sure. Now, as you probably know, I use quite a lot wider thingies than I'm actually. This is an interesting thing. So this is actually a bit wider already than the one I'm going to use. So that's quite interesting. So I'm just going to. I was going to say, often you find that the factory makes these on the ball. The factory makes the slots much wider than you think. So let's say you go for I've gone over a 9. The factory sort of beats you to it because it wants. That's a bit on the mark, that is actually. I'm not going to adjust that one. Yeah, it wants to be able to fit different gauges. Okay, this is down, this is up a bit. Yeah, it wants you to be able to, it wants the owner to be able to fit different gauges. So naturally, it doesn't constrain you to one particular gauge. If it did that, you would be kind of stuck. You know, if they had it set for, let's say, 11s, and then you 11s, 9s, and you move to a 11 or something, you'd be right up the what's it. Anyway, this is interesting. This is I'm trying to see how far back, or whether this is leaned back, this slot. And I'm not sure. I'm sure it must be technically, but it doesn't. hard to see. We're pretty much almost there actually. Well, the fact you can hear it ringing means we've got a bit more to go, and this is a bit, what's the word, conservative compared to my normal 0.3, so I've got to be very, very careful with this because it's A, it's very low action, and B, I don't want to end up going through and scrunching this area behind the nut, which is sometimes a risk. Still room. So it's difficult to, I can see it's not cutting all the way back yet, which shows me that the angle that I'm working with is already steeper than the one they already had in there, if they had one at all, so that's quite interesting. I haven't hit the front edge at that sort of angle, so it must have been very slight. Say I can see it from here. There's still the grime, or, well, I call it grime, you might call it, it might be graphite or something that somebody's put in there previously to lubricate this, but you can see that this file has only just reached the front edge of this, which is the only point where it's going to start reducing it. Fresh air. So again, this is very, being very careful with this. I was thinking today about treating myself to a new set of these, and I was thinking about 11s, which would be a kind of nice all-rounder set, methinks. It'll cope with 9s beautifully. And I'd start with everything new and unwarped, because at the moment the problem with this is if it's slightly warped right at the end, I can't use it without pushing through, and if I push through I'm liable to either to hit the strings or to hit the edge of this, the edge of the fingerboard, or the slab neck I should say. It's not really a fingerboard, is it? It's one piece, but so it's a little bit difficult to use on a neck like this, so I have to just be very careful. Now, having tweaked the relief just a little bit on this yesterday and a tiny bit today, I've come back and played a few notes on it, and it does need a very, very light leveling, but to clean some notes up to get it play the best it can. So the problem with this is that I'm experiencing right now is that because it's a slot and not a notch, and there are those who would, purists would go, well, that's what it's supposed to be, a slot, not a notch. The problem with the slot is that it will grab your file. Getting there, but not quite. Yeah, it will grab your file, and the beauty of a notch, although you don't want the notch to go all the way down to the bottom, but the beauty of a notch is that it opens up the slot just a tiny little bit, and it's not even visual or visible really, it just stops it gripping, which is really what you want. So especially if you're working with a file that's a little bit got tiny twists or anything in it from, you know, years of use or whatever, and it's not going to behave itself quite the way you want. So this one is taking a fair bit of effort to get right. It's not really going down at all, but if you cook it, then before you know it you'll be in trouble. So I'm just using whatever means I can just to gently take it down. But yeah, it's a nice quality material, whatever it is. It's cutting predictably, but I'm trying to be still too high, trying to be as careful as I can. So I'm using a bit of upward, downward pressure, as well as the backward slant as well, to try and ensure this exits the nut, the string exits the nut on a clean edge at the front, so it goes uphill and then leaves the nut. Close, nearly there. Okay, nice. Right, now having done a small adjustment, I'm going to stop there with these. Having done a small, oh no, I will just check the top ones, but I think they are close to being okay. Yeah, having done a small adjustment to the relief. Yeah, this one's, well, it's just above. They all are a little tiny bit. Very close. I'm not going to trouble this. It has reduced a little bit. Let me just feel this. Now it's rattling this. Now, I haven't mentioned it to JT, but I think, for the love of good music, as long as this is just a straight swap, which I think it is, I'm going to go with a white one of these. I just want it to be the best it can be. And these things ping still a little bit too much for my liking, so of course you can change it back sire. I'll keep it with the rest of the goods. These are pretty good because they just go down to where they end up sitting against the wood, and that's them located. Just push them into line a little bit. Right, better. Let's just pull that one off a second. Just about on the mark. Same old. Right, that's good. Leave that there like that. So, a very, very light fret level. And the reason for this is, at the action that I know JT is after on this, so that's why this was set a little higher to begin with. So I think that deserves taking care of. This is all part of the thing. So the usual thing. Now I've just about run out of masking tape. Well, regular masking tape. So now I'm going to have to be doing strange things with large, wide rolls of masking tape, which is kind of going to be odd, but hey, a little bit of difference there. Now these, wouldn't be surprised if these things break any minute now, because these locking tunes, they don't take too kindly to being done up and undone too many times. Something because they get a pretty tight, pretty harsh crimp going on the string itself. So we get our marker pen, and obviously this is where one is going to be extraordinarily careful and just mark up the tops of the frets. The strings are sacrificial, so we don't mind. Just get everything marked up nicely. If you're not confident that you can do this without falling off and drawing on the maple neck, then do the whole process of masking it off first, just to be on the safe side. Right. I was out rehearsing last night, which was actually good fun. First time in a few weeks. Really enjoyed it. I wasn't thinking I was going to, because I keep going out with this sort of thing in my head saying I don't know the songs well enough, and actually when it comes to it, I notice I'm picking them up much more than I thought I had. So it was very pleasing. We had a good old barnstormer of a practice. I think, like every band I've been in so far, or every group of people, the real secret to playing is the hardest one of all, and that's backing off, not making a big noise. I think we're guilty of too much noise. Yeah, so and it's a really difficult one because it's almost as if the people take it a bit of offence if you suggest we need to quieten down, we need to cut back on something, and it's a shame, because when people sort of acquiesce and do sort of kind of get into a bit of, not controlling, but a bit of saying, come on, let's try this, let's try and quieten that, let's try and step the volume back, or let's try and, you know, the guitars come out at this point, let's just leave the bass in, and that sort of thing. And the beauty is that when we do that, you get a real completely different experience of the song. And it's going to sound cheesy, and I don't mind, but one of the songs that I wanted to add a few weeks ago, and we did add, was to our set, was I'll Be There For You by the Rembrandts, which is of course the theme tune of Friends, and it's a real good fun upbeat pop song, you know, and it's very popular in the sort of typical pub gig. Anyway, we played it a couple of times, and you could see the guys just sort of going, oh, it's not working for me, and I wanted to keep it in there, but because it sounded a bit like a wall of noise, a couple of the guys were looking at each other with a, let's drop this, and we were about to drop it when I sort of stepped up and said, there you go, look, we got some high frets here. I stepped up and said, come on, let's just try this again, and pointed out that there's that amazing and beautiful chorus middle 8-bit. Quiet sort of middle 8-bit that nobody really knows that well, because it's not on the I don't think you ever get to it on the opening credits of the show anyway, but it oh, what am I doing? Get real. It builds up really well to a fantastic chord change, and then back into the chorus, and when I got the guys to just step that right back and kind of hear it more and think more about it as we were hearing it, I think it just worked brilliantly, and I loved the way it built up. And to me, that's such a payoff, And the problem is, we don't get that often enough, because it's often too much at a full pelt, full tilt. So we had a bit of that last night. somebody's friend from downstairs. We rehearsed in a pub, and somebody's friend came upstairs and sat in for a couple of our songs while we were practicing, and you know, he kind of made that same observation on the I'll Be There For You. We kind of seemed to be playing it at full distortion rock and roll, full on again last night, and yeah, he kind of went for the same, had the same appreciation of it. But interestingly, the guys took, when he left, they were a bit defensive about it. You know, kind of saying, I don't wish people wouldn't come in and give us their opinions on how it sounds. But I think so. It's a bit of a challenge for me how to sort of keep pushing for this dynamic, this light and dark dynamic, without getting people's backs up really. But it is such a payoff that it's worth doing, and it's such a nice thing. So we've got a couple of high frets here, we've got a couple of really low frets here, we've got sort of okay ones, a couple of really high ones clustered up here, so it's a nice little adjustment to this guitar. I'm hoping that when we get down to the bass strings we'll free up. Tiny little bit still there. I'm going to recalibrate on this because it's such a precision job on this one. It's hardly any at all, and we're going for a very low action, so I really want to get this right. See, that needs a little tiny bit more turn. It's fractionally more. That's about right. It's scary in a way, working on a 1700 quid guitar, you know, and I kind of look at it to begin with and I think, oh, you know, do I want to do this, or do I? And then I remember to sort of keep my sort of senses about me, because if anything, if I've learned anything in 600 or 700 setups, it is that no guitar there you go, no guitar is essentially any different from any other guitar, and you know, if you're doing this, don't be overawed by, obviously, you know, build up your confidence and don't offer to do something like this on somebody's expensive guitar unless you have the confidence and you know you can get the results, and you know that if something doesn't go quite the way you planned, you can stop and back out and rethink and re-strategize, because you've got to be, I keep going on about how it's a constant judgment call depending on what's going on, but providing you've built up that bit of experience, you've got to learn to trust the process and yourself in the process of doing this, because there's nothing, there is no kind of black magic in this. This is really sensible. You know, for example, we're cutting here and cutting here quite heavily. We're not cutting there, so there's no doubt about it. We have a low spot here, and unless we got high frets here, so it's cutting in all three parts of the neck. So it means the profile is right, but it's telling us that we've got a couple of very, well, actually here, these three are significantly low. So you could say it's either a little kink in the neck, which I couldn't really see, but or it's three frets that just happen to be pushed in. Not far off, I'm going to do a tiny bit more. But yeah, like I said, you've got to, it reaches a point where you've got to trust the method, and I know from having done this, like I say, 600 maybe 700 times, I know this method works. There's no magic to it. There's magic, but there's no miraculous trickery, and there's nothing about a guitar that bucks the system. You know, it is a neck, with under tension with some frets pushed into wood, and it has a truss rod, more or less counters the pull of the strings in a more or less responsive, controllable way. And this method, you can see it just maps the curve, and it says even if you've got a few little humps, it says within that I'm going to map the curve and I'm going to approximate the bits, even if there's a little wibble somewhere, and I'm going to gently level you out according to that curve, and it's brilliant for that. But you've got to build your experience up if you're going to do this thing, and it won't come first, you won't get it first time that you feel totally confident. Now the relief now is changing as we come over here. That's now too curved, so I'm going to back this off a little bit. Yeah, so it's one of those things, but if you stick with this, and I hope you do, once you build up a body of experience behind you, and if you're smart, you're going to start on guitars that you don't mind, get some crap necks from somewhere, pay £20, buy one online, buy an Encore neck, buy an Encore, unloved Encore Stratocaster for 19 quid, as I did, I think, 4 years ago, from a teenager who doesn't want to play anymore, and just do, practice on it and turn it into an amazing playing guitar. You'll be surprised. I mean, the thing is, it's far less likely that you'll ruin it. It's nearly there. A little bit here, a little bit at the top. Yeah, it's actually far more likely that you'll create a fantastic budget guitar. That's more than likely what will happen. But be smart. Start with something that doesn't put you under massive pressure, that you don't care about too much, and that you look upon as learning. So if you pay £20 for an old guitar that somebody doesn't want anymore, that's £20 to learn. It doesn't, and be prepared to throw it in a burner afterwards if you really can't do anything with it. But £20 to learn your trade on is a small price. But this really does work, and hence I keep on doing it, despite the slings and arrows of whatever insults that some people chuck at me about it. And I'm just concentrating a little bit more on this end, and I can see it taking away the uneven frets at this end. Now my hands look dirty. They're not actually that dirty. It's mostly wood stain. I've been staining some bits and pieces, but nearly there, very nearly there. I'm gonna, again, because I want this perfect for JT, I'm going to push a little more on this. Now, like I said quite a bit yesterday, there's no doubt about this. The cost, the price you pay for aiming for this kind of ultra low action is that small changes in environmental conditions can be enough to take away the clearance that you had, and you could find yourself taking this guitar up country somewhere, and then a day later what was playing beautifully can just start to buzz, and you have to accept that that's what you're going to get when you are playing with a low, or you're working with a very low action. It's the downside of that deal. But that can be, on the plus side, that can be adjusted by a very small, we've got a low spot here. That can be adjusted with a very small adjustment on the action. Let me just check how low this actually is, because we may be flogging a dead horse and starting too low anyway after the adjustment. Yeah, that's barely a millimetre, just over a millimetre fractionally. So it's a little bit lower than I would want to be pushing for here. It's unnecessarily low, is what I'm saying. 1.5 is my target, very nice and low. And that's what JT wants out of this, is 1.5 without buzzing and zizzling. Okay, we're getting close to 1.5 there, and we're getting close there. Okay. Let's check this one again. That might be fraction slow. Slow? That's not the word. Low? Yeah, it is. Okay, that's just the result of the minor adjustment to the neck relief. Flattened it out a little bit. Okay, that should be okay. Good. Last one. There's nothing to be gained from putting an unrealistically low action, like for example 1mm on a guitar, on a Strat for example, 1mm on the last fret is too low. Strangely enough, it isn't too low on an SG for some reason. Well, for some reason, my theory is that the SG neck is thin, usually quite thin and flexible, but more importantly, because the bulk of the neck is outside of the body, not in contact with any of the sort of solid wood. I mean, obviously it's attached to the heel, but there's nothing holding the neck stuck in place, and it seems to respond really well to truss rod adjustments. So I regularly find that a 1mm action on an SG on the low E last fret is possible. In fact, likely most of the time, and it's one of the reasons why I tend to recommend an SG as a start point for practicing setups. It's quite a rewarding thing, because you can get phenomenal actions and impress your mates. Now that is much better than it was, so there we go. I mean, yes, there's a small action increase there as well, but the main part is that it's leveled, as you can see, and it's if I were to just take some pictures, it's actually a fair bit of leveling. It's not a lot of metal, but it's certainly done some work on all of the frets, or most of them, except for a patch right here, this little patch of 3, which actually are pretty much untouched. So it's done what it needs to do, and what's good is, and this is something you get to know with experience, is that everything, all the cutting, where it's cut and where it hasn't, is consistent with where I was feeling choking. And there was on the low strings here, there was quite a lot of choking from here upwards, and that's accounted for by these fairly high frets up here. So that's very good. Done. Now I'm gonna slack all these off, because the time has come to lose these sacrificial strings. Now, being locking tuners, it may not be an awful lot of value in keeping them, or I might keep them, but I have to mark up that they're sort of short locking tuner model strings. Actually, JT's wound them on a little bit, which is pretty good, so that's given me a chance to probably get them around a regular tuner. Actually, these are straightforward. These are sensible design. There's some of those funny little ones that need undoing at the top here, which I find quite fiddly, but these are just undone from the back, which is by far the more sensible approach. There's some fret dust on this neck, which I'm going to dust off in a minute. We'll get rid of that, and then we'll go into the standard polishing up and sandpapering and polishing out routine, and then fit some fresh 9s at the end of the game. And while I'm here, I'll take a look at the bridge from the back, and also give it a clean out, because it's pretty dusty. And it's one of those little things that only takes another 5 minutes of being nosy and poking around in the back of a guitar that you haven't seen before. But while you're there, hey, you might as well dust out those saddles, and the owner of the guitar gets a feel of a little bit cleaner guitar back, which is never a bad thing. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to do the stuff in the back of here isn't going to really interest you, he said. It's time to put the radio on, that's what I mean. What am I going to do? Oh yeah, the one thing I am going to do that you know of, these are jumbo frets, is I'm going to remark the whole of the fretboard. Well, fretboard know the frets with the marker pen, and then I'm going to reprofile the frets so that anything that's been flattened will get just gently reshaped into an arch shape, and then that will make it easier to play. It will look nicer, and it will also return the centre of intonation back to the middle, or the location of the intonation point, if you call it that, back to the middle of the fret instead of being off. In fact, if it's flat, it'll always, the intonation will wander towards the bridge direction. Okay, so what I'm going to use for this is the jumbo side of this tool, and just basically going to gently wear down any sort of flat part of the fret and leave just a little black line of marker pen in the middle of the fret. And the thinner that line is, the better, because it tells me I've reshaped or reprofiled the fret whilst leaving the very top of it untouched, and that's a very simple logical way of telling me that I've reshaped it, but I haven't lowered it any because I haven't touched the actual crown. So I'm very pedantic. They call this a recrowning file, or diamond crowning file, and I call it reprofiling because it never actually touches the crown if you get it right. So the ones that didn't get touched at all, you just sort of basically skimming across them. Actually, what's interesting is that they are showing up as having been slightly flattened before in a fret level, so that might have been done in the shop, so, or in the factory or something. I mean, for this kind of money, you'd hope, or you'd kind of expect that, but that's a little bit of the detective thing that you get to recognise even before I took did the fret leveling. I could see that there was some flattening on the top of the frets, which was either considerable play or it was evidence of a bit of fret leveling. Now, for this sort of money, I wouldn't be surprised that this was given a quick, it wouldn't have been Plek machined, I doubt, but and if it was, look what we have to do still. But I would probably expect this to be levelled with a radius block, and possibly polished out, but not maybe not reprofiled like this. It's hard to know from not being there, but as I say, you get a sort of sense of playing the Columbo, Detective Columbo. Yeah. You get to play the Columbo after a while, and you start to recognise some of the sort of telltale marks and signs of what's happened to the victim along the way. So anyway, I'm just doing this bit, and then what I'll do is I'm going to go off camera and do the sanding out part, along with the bending these strings so I can reuse them, and come back to you when it's time to restring this. And then what we'll do then is it'll be time to restring and set the tremolo. Okay, let's get the brush on this. Come on. I've been having some fun today in the garden doing, I got my set of scrapers today. I'm excited to show you this. So I bought some nice quality gouges recently, which have made my life so much easier for carving curves and stuff. And then I thought, well, I've just got to have scrapers, because scrapers are the thing by which you finish your work, your wood. And then that allowed me, both those things allowed me to shape this lovely thing. Now, this is a test piece, and it's got a bit of a crappy seam down here because I didn't really edge the pieces or joint the pieces properly. However, I'm liking it so much, what I'm going to do is I'm going to route a sort of trench down there and fill it with some hardwood so I can use this, because actually it's not perfect, but it's too nice to waste. So this is a sort of a left-handed mock-up of Nick's carved koa caster. Obviously this is left-handed and it's mahogany, two types of mahogany, but anyway, but the idea is it's a sort of mock-up demoing how this Chinese bridge is going to sit in there, and you know, the sort of curves I'm aiming for. But what's nice is just how much more fun it is to work with the scrapers and the gouges. But of course, when you buy scrapers and you buy gouges, and especially if you buy good quality ones, you're then going to need to sharpen them, and then becomes the whole next load of expense. So I've not only got gouges, now I've got sharpening stones, water stones here, which are these beautiful things, and then for the scrapers you have to have a burnishing tool and blah blah blah. So I've got one coming from StewMac in the States, and so on, because they do a really good one which gets thousands of positive reviews and so on. Anyway, so that's just the fun part, but it's so fun to use, and I can't wait to carve more. I can't believe I made my other guitars with square chisels and sanding discs and things. But you get the shapes you can get out of it. But yeah, those gouges are just, wow, they're so much fun. Anyway, right, gonna go off, put the radio on, do all this, come back when it's time to restring. So I'm gonna then clean everything up, restring it, and then it will be time to stretch it all out, set the set the tremolo into floating mode, see how it operates with the sponge, and then we'll finally intonate it and it'll be ready. But a really nice low action on this. Nice. And here we are, polished out, restrung and everything. Just need to clip these short now, and then we'll do a bit of actually let's just move those back so I can get right down to the bottom. Then what we shall do is stretch the strings, and then we'll go into setting up the tremolo. I'll do that fairly quickly without too much explanation because it's late in the day, and yeah, we'll get it up and going, and it should all be good. Only trouble is with finishing things at this time of the day, so I don't get ready to demo and play the guitars, and you know, people like to hear different things, and that's where I just wish I was a better player all round. But let's get a note for a minute. Let's get this into the tuning zone. Right, so I'm going to just quickly stretch all these. And do the proper stretching out. So can take 3 or 4 times of doing this, get it all as much slack as possible out of the strings. And one of the good things about doing this is not only will it get your guitar to stay in tune, it's about 50% of what it takes to keep your guitar in tune all the time, is get rid of all of this slack first. But it also is a great opportunity each time you retune the guitar to listen out for the pings in the nut to hear. That's where you're going to hear if there's any strings sticking. Perfect. There we go, at least one more time, probably a couple, 2 or 3 with some bends thrown in. Be careful not to, we have to try to be careful not to break a high E string. I usually do somewhere along the line, which is why I get the roto sound strings, because they have a spare one in there, which is very handy. You get people sometimes comment on this process of stretching the strings, and some people get quite angry about it, that they think this is completely the wrong thing to do. And yeah, and they get quite miffed. And they should see it from my end, where sometimes I get guitars from people, they've had the set of strings on them for a year or 2, and this person would swear that the strings had been stretched out after such a long time, and I can just grab a handful of string, pull it, and it's way out of tune. Now these are pretty much on. Right, that's a nice low action, and all the notes playing. So the next fun part, ta-da! The next fun part is going to make this thing work in floating mode. I'm going to use the post-it notes method, as popularized by Galeazzo Frudois. I can't know how do you say it in Italian, how do you say it in any language, I don't know. Anyway, for this, one is going to need one's tuner and one's guitar. I'm going to keep it in that position, so one is going to follow the instructions. One is going to put the tuner on here. It's a very simple, elegant system, and I encourage you to go and, if you haven't seen it before, go and check it out. Galeazzo Frudois, F-R-U-D-U-A, how to set a 2-point or a tremolo, a floating tremolo. And what you do, pardon me, is the following. Let's put this So currently this is flat back on the touching the back of the guitar, and what we need to do is we need to push our tremolo forward enough to put a bit of post-its in, such that it will, when we let go of it, we'll see the tremolo is horizontal rather than touching the back, because it tilts back a little bit when it touches the body. So that is a little bit too much still. Doesn't take much, a couple of sheets really, 2 or 3 or 4 sheets, and then put that in there, and that looks horizontal to me. Right, then what you do is you tune to G, or tune the G to G. Now don't get hung up about the fact that the neck is sitting floating. You can have it here if you want. Note the note goes down, doesn't really matter. It will work perfectly well if you do it like this. All you're aiming to do is to tune this for now to what registers as G. Then what you do is you remove the post-its and you push the arm down until that G becomes an E, and you put as many strings, many post-its under there as you need to make that note stay at E. One more post-it note. Oh, brugger. It's not as easy to do as it looks. Too low, too many. Start up. Still too many. Too many. That's pretty much on. I'll add one more to the mix, right? Without losing where I was this time. One more to the mix. Ta-da! Then it says tune everything to normal pitch with everything where it is. Just go over it again. Okay, then take the post-it notes out and everything goes sharp. Then you get your screwdriver and you undo the claw. You start with the claw all the way in and you undo the claw and dial it backwards, or both claws equally, until your what was a G becomes a G again. But what will happen is that as you do it, you will end up in an equilibrium with the tremolo tilting forwards. Sharp of G, it's a wonderfully simple system. We just keep unscrewing the tremolo until we get that G back to a G. Then we have the tremolo will be in equilibrium for the right amount of backwards and forwards movement. A little bit more, tiny bit now, we're almost there. Flat, screw it back in a little bit. Go. Then you fine tune everything else, which is close anyway. Wow, zing. Right, it's just now one thing I'm going to do next before I finally check the tuning again is I'm going to readjust the action now, because the action's risen up because of the movement of the tremolo. So as the tremolo tilts forward into its floating position, we've now got higher action than we wanted. So it's now back at just over 1.5, which is a little bit more than I want, given it's a nice low action. Pardon me. Getting there. Now, so obviously put it out of tune again. And we'll keep on taking that or getting that back into tune as we get closer to the right action. Should be right there. Obviously, with a floating tremolo, you have to get everything in tune. First off, you have to just get everything into dynamic tune. So you have to use a tuner like this and do each note separately. Now it's going to pull the others out of tune. Just have to keep doing it until there's no more give. It will reduce as you go through. It's interesting. Something wrong with this phone. It's the phone. And then I had that. Right. And now what you'll see is there's still a bit of tuning room here. Right. Despite having stretched it out, you can still throw off the tuning the last little bit, so it's definitely worth keeping on doing. You can do it without breaking any strings. That's really weird. This an earth thing there. It's an earth issue. How weird. Tremolo claw is on. That's earthed. That's earthed. You were earthed. Never heard that before. That's a bit odd. So look, you can hear. You can see that we've pulled it again, so keep doing it until there's no more movement. And also keep listening out for pings. Anyway, oh yeah, one more thing. I'm going to do one more thing, and that of course is to set the the intonation. So let's make sure I got the right thing right. Okay, so intonation. Right, let's go. Start with the E. So that's telling me it's a bit too long. I'm just going to push this one forward, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to push the other ones around it and balance everything out, and make a stab at everything else while I'm at it, because I took these off and cleaned them, put them back on, so no doubt I put them on in a very different place, which I completely expected to. Short, so I'm just going to pull that one back a little bit and balance things out between the two, and I'm going to do a similar readjustment for the others based on that spacing. Short. Saying it's too long still. I don't know. Let's pull those back. These could be very straight for all I know. Let's stop there. That's too long now. Come on, A. You can do it. Come on, A, do your thing, please. Right, let's try. I'm confusing myself as usual, going the opposite way. Let's try this. Ping there, sandpaper on the D. push it forward, push it forward, push it forward, push it forward, push it forward. Put it back, put it back, put it back. Put it back. Come on. Here we are. There we have it. It is done. That is the, don't know, something wrong with my lead, the American Elit series Stratocaster with some foam blocks in the back, action lowered, nut action tweaked, frets levelled, tremolo pulled out, shut up, frets levelled, polished, and the final little bit here is let's put on the back plate and dance the blues. Dun, 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 dun. Let's dance. Right, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is it. These look. Oh, that's the that went with the thingy. That. What did that come from? That's not part of it. Weird. Let's put these back on and let's put them down to 2. Screw control, major tom. Screw control to major tom. Lovely guitar. And I need to consider putting a different amp in here. I think this needs cleaning out or retiring or something. I think it's starting to go a bit funny. Anyhow, there we have it, ladies and gentlefolks. The made in Corona, Corona Elite USA American Elite thing. Just tweaked a little bit. And set with a floating tremolo. So there we have it. That's that. Next stop is going to be another one of JT's guitars, and that one, why is that there? That is a countersunk screw. It looks like it comes off the switch or somewhere like that, but it doesn't. Why is it in this pot? I don't know. Anyway, yeah, next one is going to be, I think, the Reverend Telecaster. So we're going to get stuck into that one day after tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be fitting some new humbuckers to Hughes Epiphone Moderno. This thing is sitting there. This is just a little bit of an aside for fun now, but it's sitting there waiting for a new set of pickups, which we've got here, the rolling mill pair. And the other thing that's quite important, well, I don't know where it went. That's a good point. Maybe I chucked them all in here. No, I didn't. Here's the bridge and everything, but I bought some some replacement of these, because one of them had sheared and I bought some new ones, and I have now forgotten where they went, unless I chucked them straight in here, which would be probably sensible, but probably not what I did. So I'm going to have to go looking for them, because my mind has completely eluded me what I did with them. There was a whole packet of them, and I brought them out here and put them somewhere sensible. Anyhow, that's the thing. I was gonna check and see if they fitted, but I'm sure they do. Anyway, typical klutz brain. So anyway, that's going to be tomorrow's thing. So ta-da! Let's leave that on the bench ready for that and tidy up. See you later.